The Team Supreme podcast is brought to you by the voices of Jason Schomer and Yashar Coffee and produced by Matt Sewell, who is me. I am Matt Sewell. If you got a moment, leave a comment about the podcast or give us a rating or share with your friends. Enjoy.
I'm from New Jersey. He's from Iran. It's good enough for a podcast. We're Team Supreme.
Yashar, you mentioned recently that about something about lying to something. You were embarrassed about lying about something in the last podcast.
Yeah, actually, I thought about that very carefully, especially after I saw the subject that we're discussing this week. It's a cultural thing. Like, I think in my culture, we lie a lot. And I know not popular. Yeah, it's not popular amongst my people if I bring it up like we're a bunch of liars, because we say like, no, we've been invaded so many times, so we always have to like change our stories to stay safe, which is, partly true if you look at it from like an anthropological point of view. But like, and we even have an expression. We say, oh no, that wasn't a bad lie. That was like a necessary lie. That was a lie that had to be said in order to like not let things get out of control. So so that's just for the beginners. Like, that's like unfortunately a cultural problem. And I suffered from it, and I currently suffer from it to some extent.
So the first real big liar in your culture came up with that reason. Probably was like it's a necessary thing.
It's a necessary evil, but at the same time, like one time I read an article about like people that are always like either invaded or being attacked or run by like dictatorships, and Secret Service tries to infiltrate in their private lives. Those citizens slowly but surely evolve into liars.
Politicians.
No, people. because you need to save yourself. So like, let's say, I don't know what my neighbor's intentions are, because he may be working like, let's say, for the Secret Service. So when he asked me like, so what were you guys doing last night? We're like, oh, we were like listening to our leader or something like that. Well, we were not. We were playing like games, So slowly it gets ingrained in you to like constantly change, which altering reality is lying in a way or form.
Well, do you guys feel like you had some sort of, when you were little, just like some sort of, is there something I feel like I hear like a TV or something in the background? You guys hear any sound, or is that just me? Am I just getting feedback?
I hear something, but it's very low.
Is it mine? Let me 1 second. Let me turn off the air conditioner.
This is live TV.
Is it better?
No, I was lying. No, it was true. It was true. No, I feel like growing up, just like had some sort of like just natural lying instinct as a kid. Like when it came to my friends, like it's like I think really like in first grade is when it really, really kicked in, where every story I was telling was a lie of some kind to my friends, like of something I did, whether it be, something as dumb as like I've tried a certain crazy food before, like, like oysters or something, or I've had sex already. That was one of the lies I had told people, and probably I think in first grade, everyone thought I. What's that?
Oysters can lead to sex.
Of course, yeah. Sure. That was in the same sentence. But did you feel that way?
I did not. I at least maybe I did. I don't know. Kids lie about everything. Usually the kid lie is, "What are you doing?" Nothing.
Mm-hmm.
What's going on? Nothing. No, something's going on. No, nothing. But I can't remember. I guess
so maybe it's just me. Because I feel like I see. I definitely see it in my son right now, who's in fourth grade, and over the last few years,
genetics.
Yeah, it has to be, because and it's the exact same thing. It's the telling of stories. I got to a point. I know I consciously got to a point, sometime in, I don't know what grade it was, where I was like, okay, I need to stop telling stories. I had gotten caught in some sort of lie at some point over, or several, and that it was, humiliating. And it was like a thing where it was like, okay. And then it like something clicked. There was like, there was no reason to tell lies anymore. You know, I could have an actual life and it's okay. I don't need to have these amazing stories all the time. And it turned out after I stopped, lying and making up this shit, all this crazy stuff started happening to me the rest of my life. And now I have all these real stories that sound like lies. I mean, that's the irony of it all.
Yeah.
I
remember I had one big lie. And it was so pointless. Like, it was just to my mother, I guess. And that was, I was like fishing one day and I started I had a zit or something. This was like in 9th grade and I kind of messed with it and it made it bigger and I started breaking all the capillaries and I made it bigger. And then I made it look like I had gotten a fight. And I had not been in a fight. In fact, I've been in like one fight. I like up to that point. And it was like, I created a whole story about a fight I had while I was fishing when I was out there by myself. And at the end of the day, my mom was like, "Are you okay?" I'm like, "Yeah." She's like, "Okay." So I created this huge arc of a lie for that response, which was like, is he okay? It wasn't like, I'm going to call his parents. I'm going to call, we're going to get someone involved. We're going to call, none of that. It was just like, everything's fine. Yeah, everything's fine. Okay. And I was like, why did I scratch my face and make it look for nothing? Like, I don't even remember why I did it.
That's exactly how I felt. I felt like I never had a real reason. Like you start talking about like necessary lying, and of course we've had those moments and everything. But like back then, like I felt like it was so many. Every lie I said was probably for my own personal fantasy reasons to like enjoy, like feel like I'm in this exciting moment. Because another example I had where a lie really got out of control was I remember walking back from school. Because I lived maybe like 2 blocks from my elementary school. I'm probably like in 2nd grade at the time. And a car was parked up on the sidewalk for some reason. They just went up halfway up on the sidewalk and they were just parked there. And I remember having to like move my up against the bushes to get past this car along the sidewalk instead of going around it. And while I was going, someone was in the car and drove back into the street. Nothing happened. But right at that moment, I had decided I'm going to act as if it just ran over my foot. This is going right. Go. I mean, I literally was like, "Ow, ow," and freaking out and like hobbling back to the office, like holding onto the walls. And being like, "Help, help." And they're like, "What's wrong?" And I told them a car just ran over my foot. I don't know why. I just wanted to go to the nurse and be able to tell everybody I had a car run over my foot. But
Go ahead.
But from that, it led to now I'm having a meeting with the principal. And now I have to describe the car. And now they're checking out security camera footage that they actually had back then on the side of the building, like a grainy black and white footage to see if they could get a license plate number of where I was. I mean, the sheer panic that I had put myself through over the next few days. And also I could see the skepticism in their faces because I knew they were like, this kid did not get his foot run over by a heavy car, and there's no marks on my feet, no nothing.
Yeah.
I'm clearly, I'm just limping, but that's because I'm pretending to limp.
It's like you're Wolverine. You'd have no, it would be shattered. Your foot would,
Yeah, a child's foot, a child's foot.
Spot that you were on.
Yeah. No, oh God, It made no sense. But everyone, they had to, I guess, properly go along with what my story. And I think that was around the time where I stopped. I was like, I can't do something like that. Was like as far as I could reach to just see how I could stretch this thing.
You would become Jason the liar.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. Crying wolf.
Yashar, what is? Could you even think about like?
Oh yeah.
Like,
No, I just remembered when I was in first and second grade, I used to have this fantasy that I had four cousins. They were four brothers, and they were always backing each other up in fights and all. I had a sister; she was younger than me. So at school, I had this fantasy that I have four brothers, and we all have like black belts in martial arts, and we kick ass, and we have like five German Shepherd dogs. I clearly remember I used to make up those stories about how we went through this fight, and my brothers were like all like ninjas and shit like that. And then one day somebody said like, "Yeah, we should come and see your brother so we can all train." And I got so stressed out because I never had a brother. And then sometimes around the second grade, I don't know what happened, but I stopped. But I remember I really wanted just like my cousins to have like three brothers and four brothers and so those were my like lies
You wanted
about like
a posse.
huh?
You wanted a gang.
Yeah, exactly. I wanted to feel like I belong, but I didn't, because even like the kids from the neighborhood, yeah, they would play with me, but it wasn't like, oh, your shot is here, So I mean, I'm not saying I was a loser, but what I'm saying is I really wanted to be someone I was not. So
that's the number one thing right there. I mean, I think most of the times I got caught in a lie was usually lying to a teacher or a coach or something about having an ability that I didn't really have, right? Just to be like to start. But like one memory that comes up is I remember I joined when I was at camp, summer camp. I went to a camp where one year where I didn't know that many people, and they didn't know other kids, and the coach obviously didn't know me. And I went up to the baseball coach, and I was not that great of a baseball player, but it was in Little League, right? But I always didn't. I think I rode the bench most of the time, and I told this coach that I was like an all-star, like on my team, and I was like, and I told him I was like, this is. I'm not comfortable unless I'm playing baseball. I think I remember even saying that. And like he threw me at shortstop, and like I remember like the first ball hit. It was either in a practice or what. I remember in the practice, a line drive was hit, and I jumped up and I made an amazing catch, and it was like probably the best play I've ever made in all of the little sports I played in my life. And it was like, I mean, it solidified my lie right there, right? I mean, this guy was like, I could even see the coach at the time thinking, like, I'm saying, like we got one, we got a player that we need right there, because this inter-camp league was a big deal to them.
Have him pick cleanup.
Yeah, it took I think 2 innings of the actual first game for them to realize I had no skills whatsoever. And the biggest problem was. I don't know what I was thinking, because I knew that the second the ball was hit to me, I could not throw a baseball very well. And I knew gunning it over to first base was going to be a stretch of everyone's imagination, including my own.
Give away. See the kid's arm.
Yeah, that ball went far over the first baseman's head.
Damn.
That was it. Yeah. Does the worst lie come to you at all? Like, if you think about it, like if you're like, oh my God, I can't believe I lied that time. Like, it's something that really snowballed, or something that you really regret.
Not yet.
Something that ricocheted and hit me in the face right away was when I was doing my military service. I knew this. I had heard of this fitness coach who was working with like athletes of different teams. And one time I was talking to someone who was actually like, he brought him up and he said like, oh, so-and-so is a good coach because the karate team did really well in the world competitions. And I was like, oh yeah, I know him. I train with him. His name is, and I like misspelled or mispronounced his name. And he was like, that's not his name. And I was like, no, he is. And I started talking about him and he said like, bro, he's my roommate. And
God.
That was like, somebody, as if somebody had dumped a bucket of shit all over me. It felt horrible. I left in shame. So that's one that I remember. Yeah.
Let me think on it. What do you got, Jason?
Oh man. I mean, that one with The one with the running over my foot was pretty big. I mean, I think the one that affected me the most was probably was lying about having my two like really closest friends, and this is first or second grade, but like I had like these two best friends, man, I think it was even into third grade, where it was so cliche, but I lied about having a girlfriend out of state, and having and real not, I mean, just the details that I went into with them about her, just every I mean, I'd be like, hey, you guys want to talk about Becky, like whatever her name was, right? I was just like, I like would start like hanging out with being like, hey, you guys want to talk about the girl I'm dating that you never met, doesn't really exist. And I think, and that ended up really going further with saying like what I had done with her physically and what I wasn't friends with those guys anymore. I mean, after when either I admitted it, I don't remember how it really came out, but I think between that one and lying about cheating on a test and getting caught for that one was pretty rough. But that was later on. That was like high school. Oh yeah, man. Nothing I say. Yeah, you can't trust me anymore. I don't think after this.
No way.
Absolutely not.
I think I broke a window when I was a kid in our own garage. We had one of those garages that was away from the house, and I threw an apple through it. I just fucking fired an apple right through it. And then I told my parents, no, I didn't do that. I don't know why. And who else would do? I mean, I lived in a village. Like there was like 30,000 people that lived where I grew up. There's more people in my neighborhood right here in Reseda than just this block, probably.
You say you lived in a village?
Yeah, like it was a little town, upstate New York. One school, one elementary school. It's Americana, Jason. And
you spent most of your time in the one church.
That's right. No, there was like 7 churches. One school, 7 churches. But I threw an apple through, and they were like, "What happened?" And I was like, "I have no idea. I don't know." But it's an apple from I don't know. I couldn't tell you. And I remember I thought about that. That was when I was really like shaking. They probably knew I was lying. Kids can't lie. They can't.
It's funny. It's funny now how easy it is now to detect it from my own kids, but especially my son's definitely at that age where I was doing this, and I know it now. And he got that for me where it's like it's all about the excitement of telling a story that isn't real and being like almost playing this fantasy, but like just separating yourself just one step over it, so it's not you can't really confirm it. But he's terrible at it compared to me because he starts every sentence with I know this guy, or I know this. There was once this guy who told me that, and I know right away. Okay, the following sentence is now being made up on the spot, or it isn't even a lie that he didn't even comes prepared with the lie. He's making up the lie on the spot, which makes it even worse because he's like, I knew this guy who had 5,000 spiders as pets, and they had eggs, and it just keeps going, and I'm like. I'm like, who am I to call him out on it? Because nobody was there to call me out. I did the same shit. So how am I supposed? I'm not going to call him out. But every once in a while, I'll go, how do you know guys? What guys do you know? Like, you're with me all the time.
He's an entomologist if he has 5,000 spiders.
It's not even about the spiders. I'm not even calling him out on the story. I'm like, what guy are you hanging out with that has these spiders? And he's just like, some guy I used to know.
Oh, a guy in Simi Valley I met when I was there doing some reconnaissance for the ninja group that Yashar started.
Inside of my head.
Is there nothing more? I mean, to me, like, there's nothing more. I mean, there is more, but it's so satisfying catching somebody else in a lie. Having that moment, especially with like customer service people. Or somebody that's really trying to like screw you or whatever, something that you like lock onto and you're like, wait, you said this, and now you say that. There's nothing more satisfying than calling somebody. That probably goes along with the cancel culture right now.
I'm so savage with customer service people. I'm like the world's greatest prosecuting attorney. Like, I'm just nonstop evidence. Won't let them get a word in edgewise because I've done it. So I've got so much practice at it. I just
I used to go. I mean, I used to fuck with them a lot, but I feel like I think over the years I've been a little bit more courteous, knowing that these are just jobs.
Yeah, I'm courteous, but if they screw up, that's when I unleash it. That's
right.
Boom, 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 and they have no. I'm very polite, until that moment.
Yeah. What is it about getting a little older that makes it more satisfying to write a letter to a corporation about something that is wrong, right? Like I never would have, like, if I stayed at a hotel recently, and there was definitely issues, and the way things were handled wasn't correct, and they had like a customer service email that you could send, like they actually sent it to me like, how was your stay? Tell us about your stay. I'm like, I will tell you about my stay right now. And there's just nothing more satisfying than sending that letter now.
Which was full of lies.
And I think
it gives you a sense of like purpose, and you feel like you have like dispensed some form of justice.
Yeah, I feel like the line, like you said, like whether feeling like you have to lie for whatever reason, like obviously if you really do have to lie, it's fine. And like, just being in a fantasy lying feels like okay when you're a kid. But I know several people that consistently lie to get something out of it, which I think to me is like the grossest thing. Let me give you an example. Like I knew this guy, a friend of my wife's, who almost every like corporate restaurant or some sort of restaurant they would go to would come up with this lie about what happened during their service that they could go directly to corporate for, and they would always get sent like a gift card or something for that. Please join us again. Let us give you a better experience. That's why he would do it, and he wouldn't be able to do it more than once because they would usually keep the addresses on file so they could stop people that do that over and over. But when I was dating my wife and she was friends with him, she started to get. He like stayed at her place for like one day because he was in town. And he basically started putting down her address, and she was getting gift cards being sent in the mail to her, apologizing to him for the experience. And he would call me like, "Oh yeah, just put those aside. I'll pick them up," because he needed more addresses to keep doing this thing.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, as an adult, that's shameful. But I had high school friends. One in particular would do it at drive-thrus. And he was like the debate team captain. So he was really good. By the way, he turned into a politician.
What?
Big time Republican and got guilty of fraud. But anyway,
that's really the grown-up word for it now, isn't it?
Yes. He would call it booshing with a B. Booshing. Let's boosh McDonald's. And
what would he do? What would he do in the drive-thru?
He would say, my last order was messed up. And he come up with an extensive story about how it was messed up, and he would get free food. And he would do that. He'd hit every fast food place in town. And he was so proud of it. And I was like, God. I mean, he's the guy that called me once. This is something I am a little bit ashamed of. When I was in college, his opponent, he was running for student body president of University of Florida. Now I've outed him. So there.
There you go.
But he asked if he could use my name because he was writing a rebuttal letter to the editor against him. And I was like, whatever, sure. So he used my name for this incredibly articulate attack on his opponent. Because I didn't care. I was just saying, I don't care, And then when the guy responded, he went around with his fraternity brothers and stole all of the student newspapers out of all of the they're free out of all the machine dispensers on campus at the University of Florida, and then dumped them in our dumpster by my apartment. I was like, geez.
That was the payback.
He went on to be, a politician.
Are you talking about Matt Gaetz?
Not much older than Matt Gaetz, but he is.
Got it.
Just like him.
Because he's also like a shady character who's like making up like
absolutely.
He's been talking about this adopted son that he has that like is not of like white descent, so he technically can claim he has like a black child or something.
Yeah, I mean,
it's kind of funny.
It just goes on all over the place. There's people that do that fraud.
Well, taking it to like ridiculous levels. I worked at a restaurant once with probably one of the nicest guys who was my manager at the time. This man, he was like a career restaurant manager, and he was good at it. He had great people skills, and we all loved him. And I had a table who it was a woman who was eating a steak, and she said, look at my steak, and I looked down, and there was a piece of like a half of like a cockroach on next to her, sitting next to her steak. I mean, just sitting there. And I was like, oh my God, I was mortified. Went over to my manager, and he said, hang on a sec. And he went into the office, and he rolled back a camera that was right over the table, and saw her pulling out a Ziploc bag and putting down a piece of this, bug. And basically what she wanted was, it's for the meal to be comped. So he saw this, and he walked over to her, and he nicely said to her, look, I saw you on the camera taking out the bug to put it on that steak. But here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to make a brand new steak. I'm going to send it to you to go. And I don't want you ever to come back here again. Like, he was super cool about it, right? And she, of course, was like, I can't believe you said that, and just kept on, didn't cop up to what she obviously did, because we saw her do it. And the thing that really put me over the edge was she said, all right, fine. She goes, I want that first steak wrapped up too. She wanted that
my
God. So he said, you need to get out. And she left. But after that, she instead of just saying, all right, I got caught and that's it, and they kicked me out and got to move on, she calls corporate, the offices, and says he humiliated me, and he said that I lied, and they fired the guy.
What?
No way.
Yeah, he was a GM career guy. He'd been there, through the company for some. And just because she said that, it's surprising what people will do, especially being in the restaurant business for a while, knowing what how people react to having their lies being called out. They don't care who they're gonna end, whose career they're gonna end, or anything. But that last kind of laugh thing to it.
What about the video?
It didn't matter. It didn't matter. They took what she said and said basically you humiliated a guest. You can't call out a guest. Apparently, you have to just sort of, I guess the proper thing when it comes to corporate and restaurants is, and I'm sure it's changed. I don't know if it's the same anymore, but for their reason was basically you need to not call them out. You just got to ask them to leave or comp their meal and let them go. It's too many numbers. They have so many numbers of people that one person isn't going to. But any kind of bad publicity or anything she's going to make happen could put a bad name to the restaurant, and that was it. And he was done.
Lame.
Shitty.
Yeah, when they get away with it, they just will keep doing it, and you see what happens.
Well,
they become.
Is there besides now cutting out all government and all that kind of stuff? Is there another place other than a place of business other than a restaurant that doesn't hold the most lies? You got your servers that are usually lying to the guest. Whether it be, if they're saying your opinion on something, I think a lot of servers are probably saying, we'll always pick the most expensive thing is the best thing, or whatever,
always went up.
Any kind of, always went up, get it up.
I would go one down for the most expensive.
Yeah, that's good, right. You can't go all the way to the top. You got to go one under, maybe one under that.
Yeah.
That's
and then mix it up in that area.
You have the customers that are lying, so many lies happening. Like, I was in here last week and they did that for me. What do you mean that's against your policy? I was in here last week and this was done for me. I know, right? Like, that's the number one lie I would hear all the time because it wasn't true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Den of lies.
I can only imagine, like, where I work, what they deal like with the guest service people, what they deal with up front at the theme park of people coming in trying to get front of line passes. I mean, the extent that people go to.
Oh, lying for the theme park to get, you mean to be like handicap, like they have some sort of disability kind of lies? Oh,
come in in wheelchairs.
Oh man.
Like, absolutely. I mean, it's nonstop.
That's just ticket straight to hell lying right there. That's up there.
Hey.
Well, you know how in downtown Los Angeles they caught a bunch of business owners who were using fake handicap license plates and signs in the cars. So they'll be. Unfortunately, when they made that news report and they went and talked to them, they were, and I'm very, very I don't want to admit this, but they were all Iranians.
Oh.
Downtown, all of them were speaking Persian to each other, like, hey, don't say anything, let's get a lawyer, or don't say, but they were saying it in Farsi, and I'm like, this is really messed up. Hey.
The worst is the people that sit outside major Targets and stuff after some sort of natural disaster or something happens, and they're collecting to help whoever, the victims of whatever happened.
Yeah.
That happened here in Burbank, right? I feel like it was something after, what was it? Like the big tsunami or something, and it was outside the Target in Burbank. I feel like they collected tens of thousands of dollars.
Happens at every level. I mean, we just saw what happened today with that Steve Bannon.
Oh yeah, that happened. That happened today.
Well, actually, very quickly, I used to go to this Borders bookstore a few blocks from my place. They closed it down. There was this one kid outside. He used to raise funds for this dance company they had. He wanted to go to New York to Juilliard and participate. So I helped him out a few times. And then 12 years after I gave him money there a few times, I saw him. He was running the same shenanigans outside of Chipotle up the street. But this time he was like, yeah, I'm a volleyball coach. I want to take my team. And now he had gray hair, but the same sort of the same scam. I'm raising funds. And I told him, and then he was so stupid. He said, do I not know you from somewhere? I was like, yeah, you were running the same scam down the street. If that happened to us, that's how we know each other. It was like, bro, just don't talk to me. Walk away.
Justice. Swift.
Nothing like calling them out.
That's right. All right. We got,
all right. Well, guys, if you ever lie to me, I think I'm going to be okay with it.
Forgive us.
Yeah. Feel free to lie on this podcast anytime you want, really.
For sure. I just did a few times.
We got to figure him out.
All right, fellas. Good chatting.
All right.
Take care.
Yeah, guys. Supreme.
Supreme.